Hi, this is Olajide from CTF Security and welcome to another video on web application exploitation. In today's video, we'll be exploring a critical web application vulnerability where PHP Remote Code Execution is possible via file inclusion. This vulnerability allows an attacker to execute malicious PHP code directly on the server, making it a severe vulnerability that can lead to devastating consequences in any web application. We'll walk through the steps to identify and exploit this vulnerability, ultimately achieving remote code execution on the server. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome back to the channel. Now, just in case you want to follow along with today's practical demonstration, all you need to do is to head over to hackerone.com, create an account, log into that account, then visit the ctf.hacker101.com, and this will directly log you into the Hacker101 CTF. Now, we have a list of some CTF here, but the one we're going to be using for today's demonstration is titled Cody's first blog. So to get started, all you need to do is to hit the start button, and this is going to take few seconds to load up. Now, while this is coming up, let's head over to the terminal, and we're going to create a new directory where we're going to put our documentation. Now, to do that, we're going to use the make directory, Cody's first blog, which is going to be the name of the directory, and then we're going to use Sublime to create a text file called Cody, where we're going to be dumping all our findings. The first information I want to add here is the target URL, so that we don't have to pick up the URL from the web application every single time we need it. Another thing I want to do is to make sure I fire up my Bob suite, because we will be needing to capture some web requests for manipulation. So we're going to use the Bob Suite Pro. You can as well use the community edition for this task. This is going to take a few seconds to load, and we're just going to wait for that. Okay, so we're going to select temporary project next, and then we're going to start Bob, and this is just going to take few seconds. Okay, we are up. So let's head over to the application. We're going to go to our extension. We're going to head to the Foxy proxy. Then we're going to switch to Bob, so that when we load this page, the web request gets directed to the Bob Suite application. So let's go to the target, and you can see that we have our URL here. So I'm going to copy, I'm going to add to scope, then head over to HTTP history, and then we're going to filter show in scope item only. Now, one thing I need to also do again is to grab my URL and make sure I append it to my documentation. So let's head over to the application. I'm going to zoom in. Now we have some information on the home page of our target application. We have, welcome to my blog. I am excited to share my thoughts with the world. I have many important and controversial positions, which I hope to get across here. First post. I built this blog engine around one basic concept, which is PHP doesn't need a template language because it is a template language. So we're going to be taking some of this information because we might require them when we need to exploit the web application. So let's just call them notes. Number one. So let's go back to the application. Secondly, we have this server can't talk to outside world, and nobody but me can upload files. So it's kind of a little bit restricted. So let's go ahead and add that as number 2. And for number 3, so there's no risk in just using include function. So we're going to add that as our number 3. Okay, great. So we'll be coming back to this information later on. Let's go back to the application. Now, one thing I like to do here, especially whenever I have an input box here, which is this comment box here, is to try to inject some code to the application to see how the application responds to that. But before we do that, let's head over to Bob Suite. We're going to forward the request to repeater, and then from the repeater, we're going to just load this. And you can see that this loads the home page of the application. So that is exactly what we are seeing here. So if you go back to the Bob Suite, you can see it here. You can see our comment section here. So let's see the source code of the application. So it's just a bunch of HTML tags and stuffs like that. So we also have our header, we have our server information, we have our PHP /5.5.9. So that is the programming language we are using, and it happens to be an Ubuntu system. We can also validate that using the Wapalizer. So interestingly here, I have a comment on the application which says the anchor tag with the href attribute is equals to the page parameter equals to admin.auth.inc. So that looks interesting. So I'm going to grab this comment. Let's quickly copy that, and we're going to add that to found a comment in the page source. We found a comment in the page source. You can as well just add comments to the beginning and this one. All right, great. So let's try to access this new parameter along with the value that we just discovered. So we're going to head to Bob Suite, and okay, I can just grab that from here. Let's just copy the full parameter and the value. Let's go to Bob Suite, and we're going to append that to this get request, and I'm going to send. Okay, so if we render this, you see that we have our admin login panel. Now I can copy, show response in browser, and then head over to our application, go to a new tab, paste this in here and load. And this is our login panel, and you can see the URL here. Now, first thing we want to do whenever we see this kind of login panel is to try the default login information like the admin and the admin as the password. We're going to log in. So we get incorrect username and password. We can also try admin and password as password. We'll try to log in. We still get the incorrect username or password. We can as well try to brute force this, but that is not getting us anywhere because I've tried that in the past. I also try to inject some SQL injection payload here to actually see if we can dump the database, or we can perform some XSS to steal cookies and stuff like that, but that didn't work. What we're basically going to do is to head over to the home page here, and we're going to try to inject some payload into this comment section. Now we want to start very small. The first thing we want to try is to inject HTML code into this application and see if it reflects on the page. Now to do that, we're just going to use a simple h1 tag along with displaying R007, and we're going to close the h1 tag. We're going to submit, and we get a notification saying comment submitted and awaiting approval. So for anything to happen with this comment that we just submitted, an admin has to approve it. But unfortunately for us, we do not have access to the admin panel. So let's try to gain access to the admin panel. Then we can approve this comment and then see if the code actually gets reflected on the home page. Now, to access the admin panel, what we're going to do is to head over to the Bob Suite application. Now, you discover that the application is using a file-based authentication, having seen this .inc, which stands for include file extension. Now, one very good thing for us here regarding this file-based authentication method is that we might be able to brute force this particular value here to actually see if we can use this parameter to read some certain files or configurations on the server. Now, an easy way to do that is to right click and send to intruder. And then from the intruder, we're going to clear everything. I'm going to show you another way we can do this using the FOV application. But first, let's start with the Bob suite. Now, what we want to do is to try to supply some random word lists into this application. Those random word lists is going to be supplied one after the other to the application to see if there's any word that matches any file on the web application. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the admin.auth, since we know that the .inc is a file extension. And then we're going to add this. Then we're going to go to payload. We're going to use a very simple payload called directory list 2.3-small.txt. And this can be found inside the debbuster directory on your Linux system. So we're going to select the word list and we're going to load this. And we have total number of 87,664. So we're going to just remove these unnecessary words here. Highlight them and click on remove. So we have total number of 87,650. So I'm going to start the attack. And this is going to take some minutes to search through the web application for some of those configuration file with the .inc extension. Okay, so while that is loading, let's head over to a new tab. So let's just go to, okay, this one is for the Bob suite. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to clear the screen. We can actually use another application called FOV to perform the same task which we just did on the Bob suite. And in order to do that, let's first of all declare a variable called URL, and then we're going to pass our URL into that. So let's grab the URL of our application, and then let's go to the terminal and let's paste our URL here. What has happened here is we've assigned the URL link here. We've assigned it to the URL variable here. So if we need to send the URL value into the FOV application, we only need to pass the URL there. So what we need to do next is to use the FOV. We need to pass the -w to specify the word list. But before we can actually do that, we need to find the full path for our word list. To do that, we can use the locate debbuster. So this is going to show all debbuster directory, and we can actually find what we are looking for right here. So this is the full path to the directory list 2.3-small.txt. We're going to copy that and head over to our documentation here, and we're going to say brute forcing for files and configurations files on the server. So the word list we're going to be using is this, and let's go and supply that word list. We're going to use FOV-w. We're going to supply our word list. Then the next thing we need to do is we need to supply the URL, which is going to be the $, and we're going to use curly brace to pass the URL variable, which contain our URL /. Now remember, we are dealing with the page parameter, which is equals to. Now we want to force our value in here, so we need to replace that with us, which serve as a placeholder. We also need to specify -e, so that we'll be able to append some list of extensions to our file. So what this means is that for every file that we check for in the word list, the .php and the .inc gets appended to the file. So we also need to filter so that we can find our output easily. But for now, I'm just going to leave that empty. So let's go back to the Bob suite. We're going to pause. Okay, so we've paused the brute force. Now, one thing we can do here is, since we are having status code 200 for all the requests, we can try to access one of them, which is the index. So if you go to the index, let's access the response, and you see that we have an error message called undefined variable. You can actually render this to see it properly. So we have undefined variable title in the app/index.php on line 30. So this happens to be an error message because we're not able to find this file index on the server. Now, remember when we actually configured the intruder, we left out the .inc so that it gets appended to the value from the word list, which is the index in this case. Now, the application itself is appending the .php to this, which makes it an issue because it is not able to find a file with the name index.inc.php. So let's try to access another one. We can see the same thing as well. Now let's go back to raw and grab this. So we can actually filter against this error message. Let's go to filter and let's paste it in here. We're going to click the negative search so that the Bob suite is going to check all the responses and remove all those ones that has the undefined variable inside the response. So we're going to apply this, and we are left with two response, which is the home and the admin. So we have two pages already. So let's go back with this particular value. Let me just grab this because I'll be needing it for the fourth as well. Let's go back to the fourth. We're going to paste the value in here and we're going to run. So this is going to take few seconds as well. So we found the home.inc, we found index, and we found admin.inc. So I'm just going to grab this three and let's head to our documentation. So what we found is home.inc, index, and admin.inc as well. So not forgetting, we also found the admin.auth.inc. So I'm just going to append that here. Now, since we are after the admin panel, let's see what we have here. And let's go to the application and then let's modify the parameter value and load it. So you can see that we are in the admin panel already, and we have a pending comment on home.inc. And this was the code we injected into the comment section. So we can actually approve this. And when we approve this and head over to the home page, go back and reload this page, you see that the R007 get reflected on the page, showcasing that or telling us that this application is vulnerable to HTML injection. Now we can as well try other kind of injection like the cross-site scripting attack or the cross-site request forgery or other similar attacks. But we're not going to be doing that for today's video. We're going to be trying something else. Now, if you go back to our note, you see that the author is trying to say that PHP doesn't need a template language because it is a template language. This is trying to tell us that this application is a PHP-based application, and we can actually see that from the request we made earlier. So let's go back to, I think, repeater. Was that the repeater? Let's go to raw. So you can see that the application is using PHP 5.5.9 and it happens to be an Ubuntu operating system with version 4.24. So what we can try to do is to see if we're able to inject PHP code into this application comment section. But before we do that, let's get our flag, that is the admin flag, which we got here. So I'm just going to copy the flag and let's call this, let's go back to our documentation and we're going to call this flag 1. I'm going to paste. So how do we get flag 1? So what we did was we brute force the page parameter value and found admin.inc. So which gave us, displays the flag. Okay, so that was how we got the first flag. So the next thing we need to do is to inject a PHP code into this comment section and see if it gets reflected just like the way HTML code gets reflected on the page. So to do that, we're just going to write a simple PHP code to test that. So we're going to have PHP. Let's have a variable called code, which is equals to R007. And let's terminate this. And let's have echo the code variable. And then we are going to terminate the PHP code. We are basically trying to do is to just save this particular text here inside the code variable. Then we want to echo the code variable on the screen. Now we can make this a bit different. Let's just add a bunch of 0 to it so that I'll be able to differentiate it between the first value we have for the HTML injection. We're going to submit this, then go back, and we're going to head over to admin panel to approve the comment. And let's go back to our home page and refresh. So you can see that we just have a line here, but we do not have the PHP code reflecting on the page. Now what we can do is to right click and view the source code. And we can see here that the PHP code gets embedded inside the p tag on the application page source, which is very, very interesting. So we can actually upload a malicious PHP code to the application. It gets reflected into the p tag on the web application, but it does not get executed. So we need to find a way to execute this code on the server to gain a remote code execution. Now to do that, what we need to do is to head over to our comment section here. Okay, so I think we do we have something else? Let's go back a bit. So we've gotten our admin flag already, and do we get, okay, none yet. Don't think we had anyone. So I was hoping we got another flag. Okay, there was no flag. So let's go back to our hint here. Now what we can do here is, if you check this application, it says this server can't talk to the outside world and nobody but me can upload files to the server. Now what we can do here is to try to test if the application is vulnerable to file inclusion vulnerability. And this is a type of vulnerability that allows an attacker to load and execute files from a web server, potentially leading to code execution or data exposure. Now, there are two types of file inclusion vulnerability. We have the local file inclusion, which include loading file locally on the web server, and then we have the remote file inclusion, which involve loading files from external source. So what we can do is, let's head over to the Pop Suite here, and we can actually try to use this request here. So let's see if we can actually reference a domain outside the network. So we can use google.com and see how the application is going to respond. Do we get any response? Do we get any response? That's actually taking some time. Okay. While that is loading, I can as well grab this and try to access it on the GUI. So let's go back. This is the admin panel. I don't want to mess with that. Okay, so let's just paste it here. And then let's have our URL. Then we have slash the page parameter equals to, then let's try to load and see what happens. Okay, so we do not get a response. So we got 504 gateway timeout, which is interesting. Okay, so if we're not able to communicate with a remote domain, let's see if we can actually do that on a local domain. So let's say 127.0.0.1, and we want to access port 80. So I'm guessing it is hosted on port 80, and then we want to also access the root directory of the application, and I'm going to send. We get a 200 OK, which interestingly load up. Okay, so you can see our PHP code as reflected on the page, which is the R007 R000007 here on the page. So you can as well have this. Let's just copy and head over here. We can just paste it right here. So you can see the PHP code which we just executed. Now let's head over to this page once more. Now what I can do is, first of all, let's document that before we proceed. So websites vulnerable to PHP code injection from page equals to HTTP localhost, which is the same thing as the 127.0.0.1. So now let's try to get malicious with this. First of all, I want to be able to see if we can execute a malicious code to actually list all the files in the current working directory of the web application. Now, in that case, what we're going to do is to load our PHP code, and we're going to have a new variable called command. So you can call this any name if you want, and let's call this ls-pals, which is just going to list all the files and is to list it in a human readable format. And then we can also have an output value, which is an output variable. Then we can run the system command, which is going to be command. Then the second parameter we're going to pass will be the output, which is going to be return _var. Then we can have echo, which is going to print this payload status. We're going to close the quote. Then we're going to append this to the actual result, which is return underscore var. And we're going to terminate this. And we're going to terminate our PHP code. So I believe everything is fine. We're going to submit this. Okay, so this was the flag I was looking for. So this is the flag 2. So since we've gotten, let's go back. Since we've gotten what we want, let's just stop this so that we'll not be using up our system resources. I think I've stopped the Bob suite as well. Yeah, I've done that. Okay, cool. So we can as well close this one. Discard. Okay. So let's head back. So how do we get the second flag? We just inject PHP code, any. So we just inject any PHP code inside the comment section in the home page. Okay. So let's see our payload. So what we need to do is to go to the admin, refresh so that we can approve the comment we just made. And then in order to execute this, we need to go to the Bob suite and then we need to reload this page. You can as well do it on the browser. So we have an issue. So this is saying past error, syntax unexpected, the question mark. So possibly our payload had an issue or have an issue. Now this becomes a problem because this might break the application. So let's just review our payload once more. So we have the command PHP. What do we have? Return var. Okay. Oh, okay. This is where the issue is from. So let's submit this and see if it will get executed. Okay. So we're going to refresh once more. So that was corrected. Approve. And let's see if that fixed the issue. Okay, so I'm guessing that the previous payload has been stored on the application, and that was why we were having an issue. But first, let's review that for the last time. I think this is fine. Echo payload status. We appended it with this. Everything seems fine. What we're going to do in this case is let's go to proxy. We're going to re-enable this, and then we will go to target and remove this from scope. Then let's open up one CTF so that we can reload the lab. Okay, so I'm going to terminate the existing one. We need to close all this. Let's just grab this payload. Okay, so let's go. We can start that again. And we're just going to give a few seconds to load. While we wait, let's just review this to make sure that there's no mistake on this code. Fine, this is fine, this is fine. Everything looks okay. Correct. Okay. Let's go back. Okay. So what we can do here quickly is let's have our payload injected back in here. Let's submit it. We're going to copy the URL, head over here, and we're going to access the page equals to admin.inc, which is the admin panel. Okay, that was wrong. Okay, admin.inc was a mistake. Okay, so this was the request, and then let's approve. Let's go to Bob Suite. The new URL is B3EA, so let's go and add this to scope, and we're going to filter by only in scope item. And okay, so let's see what we can do with this. Send this to repeater. So as usual, we're going to load the HTTP 127.0.0.1.80 slash question mark. I'm going to send this. Okay, we have 200. Let's see what we get. So interestingly, you can see that we have our list of files on the web server displayed on the screen. So you can actually copy this, show response in browser, and head over to the browser and paste it right here. So you can see the list of all the files on the server. So let's say we want to actually view, let's look for something. I prefer it on the Bob Suite because if you go to the raw, you can actually see this properly formatted. So let's say we want to view the index.php file. What we need to do is to go back and let's go back. Let's modify this to cat index.php and let's submit. And let's go back to admin panel, reload, then approve the comment, and then let's go to Bob Suite, then we resend this. So you can see this is the output of our payload here. So this is the content of the index.php. Now this is the flag that we've got before. I think this is the second or the first flag. Now we got the third flag here. So I'm going to copy this flag, copy, and we're going to call this flag 3. Going to paste it. So how do we get it? We used PHP injection to view the index.php code. Okay. So that is the flag, and we can actually validate this or read other files on the server. All we have to do is to just manipulate this value here. So let's say cat slash etc slash password. Then I can submit this, refresh, approve the comment, and then head over to Bob Suite and load. So you can see the content of the sc slash password. We can as well go back and let's go back. Check who we are currently logged in as. Who am I? And run this. Go back, go to admin, reload, approve comment, go to Bob Suite and refresh. So you can see that we are currently data on the machine. Now you can move ahead to the browser and refresh this page. Okay, so we have the first one, but the data does not get reflected on the screen, but the list of file name gets reflected. So we can as well view page source. Okay, so still the former information that we have, the previous information that we have. So you can as well explore other files that we have on this application, like the setup.sh, the post, the PHP, all by using our payload here, which is the let's go back, which is this payload here. You can also explore the logic of the application from the, let's go to the Bob Suite. Now, if you go to the request where we view the index.php file, you can see the MySQL database connection. You can see some validation taking place here, in which if this condition is executed or is true, the application is going to redirect you to home.inc. You also have other query as well, like for the comment and the one displaying the flag. Let's see, this was the previous command that we executed on the server. So guys, let's submit the flags and see if they are actually correct. I'm going to pick up this one and let's head over to, let's open a new tab. Okay, so we're going to submit flag. I'm going to paste this one here, check. This is a valid flag and it has been claimed before, so I've actually claimed that before. Let's head over to another one. Copy. Okay, congratulations, you found the flag. Let's head over to the third flag. That's strange. Do I have a duplicate flag? Not really. Let's copy that again. Invalid flag. That's strange. All flag takes the form of this. Let's remove this. Alright, so that'll be all in this video. If you're enjoying it, please drop a comment below. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you in the next one.